Hey guys, it's Amanda and Baron, and we are back again with Kicking Cancer Cares on KSLM Radio. Okay, so you had me super intrigued with the breakdown of this program, so go ahead.
Go ahead. So, trauma and grief are really part of emotions. Mm-hmm. And so each week we are going to deal with certain emotions. And like the first week, we have...
well, actually, the first week is the tease.
Oh, yeah. The first week is the introduction. I want everyone to be related. Mm-hmm. I want them to feel comfortable. I want them to know me. I want them to know Baron. Because Baron, I'm dragging him in this with me.
Role reversal now.
Yes. I want them to feel comfortable. Mm-hmm. And ask the questions and give us your story and how that relates to them. Then we start in the emotions on the second week. And we're going to like dive into the biggest emotion, anger. Mm-hmm. Anger, all the other emotions feed into the anger. Mm-hmm. However, if you don't get rid of the anger, and sadness, and they're kind of related, but we start with the anger, it will go into rage. And you don't have control of yourself in rage.
No.
And what we want to understand is that this minor negative emotion, if not dealt with, becomes a major negative emotion.
Yeah.
Yes.
So anger is the minor negative, which becomes rage, which is a major negative.
The major.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I'm just thinking of somebody, in my own life that I'm dealing with who something happened, there was a trauma in their life, and they didn't deal with the trauma. And they got angry.
Yeah.
Because someone they loved died. They got angry. But because they didn't deal with it, it has literally turned to rage. And mm-hmm. they are reaching out and attacking people verbally, not physically, verbally. Because if you don't deal with the anger and you let it sit there long enough, it turns to rage. It
just festers and turns to rage. And not only does it hurt everyone around you, but it seriously hurts you if you do not deal with it.
Yeah. So what if somebody doesn't necessarily have a story, but they want to work on just working through those emotions, better understanding them, or like right now I've got one of my teenagers is just exhausting me, with trying to keep up with all of that. And so it builds up, but I don't necessarily have like a big story, but I would love to learn more about it to help apply it to myself maybe in the future or to others around me. Is that something that would still be...
Well, let me give you a great example of that. Prior to Brenda's cancer diagnosis, she had heard about this thing. There's a guy named Chris Wark, and he has a book called Chris Beat Cancer. And she had found this 6-week course that Chris was teaching on how to help your friends who are dealing with cancer. Mm-hmm. It's fortuitous, right?
Right.
So Brenda thinks, I don't have cancer, but maybe this could help one of my friends.
Yeah.
So she went through Chris's 6-week course in hopes that she could help one of her friends. Turns out...
It helped her.
Right. So in your case, these may not be applicable right now.
Right, exactly.
But if you take the course, then you're going, well, my friend, my family, whatever, it does have this, and when it does come your way...
I have the tools in my toolbox.
Exactly.
Yes, you do. Okay. And we're going to go over like breathing exercises.
Yeah.
We're going to, there's a whole bunch of things I'm still playing with in my head. I have so much that's actually more than 7 weeks. But so I have to narrow it down.
Right.
But there will be exercises. There will be thought-provoking journals that I'm going to ask you to keep during this 7 weeks.
Yeah.
And so it all helps because we need to get this out. We need of us.
Right.
Your frustration is just a real minor of anger.
Right. Yes.
It's
and
not...
And when we get into something that are negative, minor emotions, you'll probably go, oh, that's the one that you're talking about.
Right, exactly.
Now, I know for me, Robin, I think urge is not even strong enough. Robin highly recommended that I take this course from the person that she took it from, right?
Yeah.
And I kept hesitating. And she, literally, she's like, we can't move forward as an organization if you don't deal with your own
right
trauma.
Yes.
Yeah.
And finally, I'm like, okay. So I take it. Well, it turns out for me, and the phrase they used was a presenting problem.
Yes.
So there was this thing that I thought was the presenting problem, Brenda's cancer. That was the presenting problem. Well, then there's a deeper problem. Okay.
That's called a greater problem.
A greater problem. Oh, crap. I hadn't thought about that. That's the greater problem. Okay. And that came to light. But they dig even deeper to the root.
And we get to the root cause.
Yeah.
Because what you think your frustration's from your son, there's something else there.
Right. Yes.
Except when I went through this with Robin, the root problem came when I was 7 years old.
Okay.
And I'm like, holy cow, didn't see that one coming.
Well, and even if there's not an issue, I think like we really talk about being proactive with our lives and bettering ourselves and getting ahead of the problem, that this can only be a positive thing even if there's not traumas in your life right now.
Yes.
Build your toolbox.
It's a great tool.
Yes. Get ahead of the game so that when those traumas do come, you're like, oh, well, I've got this breathing exercise. I can do this. I can do that. Okay, I can recognize these are these emotions and this is why I'm feeling them. So it can be helpful for people that have traumas or that don't have traumas yet.
Yeah.
Right.
I love that.
And I'll give you a quick example. I'm working at a place right now, helping them out. And when a customer blows up, they attack the employees, which the employees have nothing to do with it. But they verbally will attack, and then I step in.
Mm-hmm.
And they all have told me, how can you remain so calm when he's in your face yelling at you? Well, it's not about me.
Right.
It's all about whatever's going on in them, and I recognize that.
Mm-hmm.
And I usually can get them, in my coaching style, it's just all questions.
Right.
I don't tell you anything.
Mm-hmm.
I don't tell you how to handle anything. It's just a question. You have to come up with your own answers.
Yeah.
That will help you run your own life.
Mm-hmm. I love that.
Yeah.
That's good.
So we
makes them feel like they're still in control.
Yes.
Also.
Yes.
So week 2 is anger and rage, and each week is an hour and a half long.
Okay.
Yes.
So the first half an hour, we're going to review the last week, what kind of insights came from you. Then we go into the next half an hour is the new negative emotion, and then the last half hour is, again, building some community, because we want these people to be able to leave and know that this person in Los Angeles that they can reach out to if they live in Manhattan, New York, whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
So then week 3, we're going to come back, same thing, review that negative emotion, but then we're going to get into the next minor negative, which is sadness that can become depression. And I want you to describe this a little bit more, but I want to tell you a story, because this was the one, as I went through this, was the one for me, because I had gotten the news about Brenda's cancer, and so of those 5 little T's, right, I had had to file bankruptcy. This would have been, back when the market was turning.
Mm-hmm.
I had just turned 50 at that time, and everyone likes to give you a bunch of black flowers because you're 50 years old, and so I bought into that. I bought into that whole "you're getting old" thing because I was 50. Had to file bankruptcy. Had to foreclose on my house. Found my sister has cancer.
Mm-hmm. Oh, just a bunch, everything.
Bunch of little T's hit me all at the same time.
Yeah.
Well, there were some big T's in that.
Right.
But I didn't know what the big T's yet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when that's happening, a new company had bought where I was working, and they let me go.
Right.
So I have a financial trauma in there.
Yeah.
And that was sadness.
Mm-hmm.
Except I didn't know how to deal with it.
So you got angry.
No. I got depressed.
Okay.
For 3 years.
Stuffed all of that emotion.
Yeah. I sat in an awful depression for 3 years.
Yeah.
And so when this all came to light with her, I'm like, holy cow, that was me right there.
Mm-hmm.
Sadness became depression.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't get angry. I went through the direction. I withdrew.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the first things that was assigned to somebody else was, Barron's not talking.
Oh, yeah.
Something's not right.
Mm-hmm.
Because they're like, he's always talking.
Right. Yeah. He's always high spirits. Good mood.
So
chipper.
What he didn't do was he stuffed the anger. I mean, what he did do was he stuffed the anger, because sadness does lead into anger.
Yeah.
And he stuffed all of that emotion inside of himself and created a world for himself that he was totally unhappy with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I'll tell you what, that's a world I don't ever want to go back to.
Right.
I sat there for 3 years, right? I told this to Brenda when she came to visit me. I was coming out of that depression by the time she came to visit me in December of 2017. And I said, I remember the exact moment when I contemplated suicide.
Really?
Yeah, that's how deep I got into depression.
Yeah.
When you are so depressed that the best option is suicide,
which is never the best option. That just may be in your head. That is never the best.
Thank you for clarifying. That is not a good option. But in my head, that was the option.
That was your option.
That was my option. And I'm just going to call it, I said, my intuition. Something inside me said, that's not a good option.
Right. Thank God.
That's not a good option.
Yeah.
And so when Brenda gets there, and we start this little idea of the Warrior Dash, which led to the it literally kept building upon itself to become Kickin'Cancer, but it gave me a purpose. It gave me something to do.
Gave you drive.
Yeah, and one of our biggest financial supporters that first year, he said, Kickin'Cancer's keeping you alive too.
Yeah.
Yes.
Absolutely.
So that one hits home.
Yeah. I love that. I love it, Baron. I'm glad that you're here and that you didn't take that option.
Yeah.
Very glad.
All right. Back to you. I'm going to cry.
If who would I have to harass?
Amen.
Yeah. Call him up. Now, how are you doing today?
Yeah.
So that's week 3.
That's
Okay.
week 3. And then week 4 is, and people don't really even understand how this can affect their life, is fear.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
And so the minor is fear. And there's, when I was in a car accident, I was afraid to go drive for weeks. Well, it's just an outcome of that situation.
Right.
I'm pretty tough. I broke through it, but I didn't break through it.
Yeah.
And then I stuffed it because that's just who I am. Mm-hmm. And then the major part of that's terror. And some people go through life with these little fears that build up, and pretty soon they can't even leave their house because they're terrorized about what's out there, what can happen to them, how are they going to feel. Some people can't even fall asleep easily because they're balled up with the terror that they may not wake up and handle things. So fear and terror.
You almost described my mom.
Yeah.
With just, she's isolated because she's scared of the world.
Right.
So when you have a fear that builds upon a fear on a fear on a fear on a fear, you get enough of those fears combined, then you're terrified.
Like What About Bob?
Like What About Bob?
What About
the
Bob?
movie What About Bob?
Right. Yeah.
Watch YouTube right now. You're going to see What About Bob.
Yeah. Baby steps. Right.
So our third negative emotion is fear, which potentially becomes terror. Okay.
Right.
Then week 5 is our fourth negative emotion, which is hurt. That can become betrayal.
Oh. Okay.
Yes.
I'll let you elaborate on that.
So actually, I was in betrayal for many, many years, even before the cancer and all of that. And that really, again, that segmented me from people because I was so afraid of people betraying me because of the past happenings.
Right.
And I went through life for many years with just having acquaintances and not having friends.
Right. Because you didn't want to be betrayed.
Because I didn't want to be betrayed.
Yeah.
I lost all trust.
So if you keep them at a hand's distance, then you can't be betrayed.
That's true.
Okay.
And I can't betray anyone else.
Right. Right. Because you can't get close enough.
Right. So that, again, affects your life in such a way that you can't become segmented from the world.
Yeah.
And, the stress of not having a friend in your life, that's tough because I had no one to talk to. I didn't even trust my mother.
Right.
And so I had no one to talk to, no one to bounce things from.
Right.
Anything. I had to trust, I trusted my animals.
Okay.
That was it.
That's fair.
My animals
I'll
are the
attest to that
ones.
one. That's fair.
Yeah. So.
But yeah, I get, yeah.
And again, it goes into each layer on up. I mean, how we're tackling this is the highest. I mean,
if anger is the worst of the negative,
worst of all of the
we're kind
negative.
of building down from that.
Right.
Makes
Okay.
sense?
Yeah. And we're taking a look at each area. What is in your life? How What is the emotion right now that, I'll have people close their eyes and take a deep breath. I said, what is that first emotion that's going to pop up? And it's going to be a still small voice.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're going to say, wow. And you won't even realize that there's emotions inside of you that you do not recognize.
In everybody. I truly believe that.
Yes.
Well, and if you think about these little T's we talk about, these little traumas, right? Loss of a job. Now, for me, because you just triggered a thought, for me, the reason I lost that job, I had the year before I had been picked manager of the year. I was doing a really good job with I was running Arby's. I was running a really good Arby's. New owners come in, buy this whole area. So they buy about 20 restaurants. And in the new owner's mind, I was making more than everybody else with his other company. So I was making too much money in his mind. And he began looking for a reason to get rid of me, having been manager the year before in a different company.
Right.
And when he found a stupid reason, then I felt hurt.
Yeah.
Right? Well, if you get stuck there, then everything in your life, it could be your divorce, it could be what the bank did to you, it could be the housing market, all that stuff hurts you. But if you get stuck there, then you feel betrayed.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Then it becomes somebody else's fault.
Right.
Yes.
Then you're pointing fingers at, hey, it wasn't my fault I got fired. It was, and so we want to help you get out of that so you don't get stuck there.
Okay.
Yes.
Makes
I love
sense?
it very much so. Yeah. And the more you break it down, it's like the more, there's stuff within all of us that could touch all of those surfaces. I truly believe that. So
Yes.
I'm
Yes.
excited.
And
Yeah.
we have one more.
Yep. So
Oh.
week 6 is the 5th negative emotion,
Okay.
which is guilt that can potentially become shame.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to let you elaborate on that one.
Oh, we all feel guilty.
True.
I think that's a human
Right.
personality trait. However, it's how do we handle that guilt? Can we make that guilt turn around to be a positive? So I'm one that everything that happens in my life is a lesson learned.
Mm-hmm.
So
Same.
yeah, guilt doesn't really fall into that as much.
Yeah.
It's a lesson learned. Okay, what do I do next? How do I create this better?
Mm-hmm.
And it's just this series of questions you're going to start answering for yourself. What's the next step I can take? I hurt this person. What do I do now?
Mm-hmm.
What is the communication I want to have?
Yeah.
And it's, because again, guilt builds into hurt and then goes into fear. And then, you go into the sadness because you hurt someone and then you get angry at yourself. And we don't want that.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So, and guilt and shame, well,
Mm-hmm.
shame. You feel really bad and, I don't want to deal with this and, it's shameful for what I say and maybe I shouldn't talk to them and,
Mm-hmm.
and you just tear yourself down and the self-love is gone and the self-acceptance is gone of yourself and all of the potential talents you have get buried.
Mm-hmm.
And we want to dig them back out.
Yes. Okay. Yeah.
So that's week 6.
Okay.
Now, as Rob and I were building this out, we said, because originally this was going to be a 6-week course, and we realized this needs to have 7 weeks. So the 7th week is actually a really good chance to just come back and let everybody share their experiences over the last 6 weeks. What have you learned? This is going to start on January the 15th. That's week 1.
Okay.
And it will go through the end of February. I mapped it all out. It's the 15th of January through the last Wednesday in February.
So every Wednesday.
Every Wednesday from 6 to 7:30 Pacific Standard Time.
Okay.
It's a Zoom meeting. You can Zoom in from anywhere. You can Zoom in from Wilsonville. You can Zoom in from Yuma, Arizona. Doesn't really matter. See, from Yuma, it's 7 to 8:30 because there's an hour time difference.
Right, yeah.
Right? You can Zoom in from Denver. That's 7 to 8:30. You know, Bruce, we hear you. We have a very avid listener in Denver, Colorado. But we realized there needs to be one more week.
And it's a very important week after we started talking because
It needed to be 7 weeks.
it needed to be 7 weeks. And everything that we will share, somebody will learn from you.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And when we can get that cohesiveness and the partnerships up, and you have said things to me throughout the course of our relationship that I'll step back and say, wow, I have to look at that.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's a couple of things that I just get real giddy because you're happy.
Right.
And I feel that with
Yeah.
you. So it's us sharing our common occurrences, and they really are common.
Yeah.
Could be little different situations, but they're very common. We can all learn from, we can all accept that from everybody, and we can move forward.
Yeah. Like your guilt one. I have a lot of guilt with my mom and just letting go of her. That's where my guilt, and then shame when I do let go. And then I have shame. So then I go back to pursuing, and then I get guilt. I feel guilty because, so it's just, I think that this will
I was exactly where you were in January.
Yeah, and so I was thinking like, well, maybe I'll just use these tools, put these tools in my toolbox. But it's like the more you talk about each week, it's like I've got something that can be for each of those weeks. And they may be little compared to other people's, compared to cancer survivors or something like that. But they're still very big to me. And that one in particular, I bounce off my best friend, who is my dad. I talk to him every morning. And that's just one that I struggle working through, because I go back and forth with the guilt and the shame and the guilt and the
So
shame.
I want to invite you not to compare your feelings against someone else, because your feelings are just as important
Yes.
as somebody going through a different scenario.
Fair. That is true. I always tell my kids, you're allowed to feel your feelings, whether
Yes.
somebody else feels them or not. That is your right.
That's yours.
Those are your feelings.
And comparing them
No
makes,
matter what.
Yeah, because you
Very
can't
true.
compare.
Yes, you're right.
Well, we are a low on time.
Sorry.
No, this is all really good.
I love talking.
And this is, I mean, we're literally walking you through 7
Yeah.
weeks in 25 minutes. The last thing we're doing that 7th week is we're going to give you 3 options. Okay? 1, just stay connected with someone you met here. You met someone and you must stay connected. Option 2 is, if you would like to do this 6-week course one more time, then we're going to give you a break. It's only $99 to do it the second time.
Okay.
But option 3 is, if you feel like you could benefit from a one-on-one,
Oh,
Yes.
Okay.
then we're offering you one-on-one coaching with Robin for $4.99.
okay. I love that.
So you can take the course once for $1.99. You can go through it a second time for half price.
So I'm sure all these other emotions pop up. You know, when
Well,
you
I've
tackle
got-
one, there's probably more
Every
behind it.
week I go through this, it's going to remind me of things, because I'm the one
Right.
teaching now, right? It's
Yeah.
going to remind me of stuff. But if you want to just have one-on-one, personal, between Robin and you, that doesn't have a time limit. It's what Robin feels like is the right time for you.
Right.
You can do that for $4.99. We're just going to give
Okay.
you 3 options to keep moving forward.
Yeah. Awesome. I love it.
So
And there
now,
is a savings with what I normally charge.
Okay.
If you go through the Kicking Cancer.
Awesome.
yeah, because she does this on her own at a much higher price
It's
than this.
$1,500.
Okay.
So it's a third of her normal price
wow.
because she's doing Kickin'Cancer.
Okay. Oh, I'm excited. So how do we sign up?
So you go to Kickin'Cancer's website. There's an event on Facebook, and right now on YouTube, it's probably right about here. Ashlie will show you the event. But basically, you're going to go to Kickin'Cancer, under support, under pathways, click adult. You can sign right through there.
Okay, perfect. And if you guys didn't catch any of that, or you were driving, email me, amanda@kslm.news, and I will get you guys over the link or information and all that good stuff.
Well, more than once, I have said it's interesting. I started doing this journal years ago, Robin. It's really kind of fun because now I can look back on what was happening as Kickin'Cancer was progressing, and how many times has it been very fortuitous as to what happened.
Yes.
So in Kickin'Cancer's history, on April the 5th, 2022, Morgan, who was on our board, Morgan's our education director.
Yeah.
Morgan's a lot of stuff with Ashlie. Morgan said yes to being on the board
Oh, yes, I
on
remember that.
April 5th, 2022.
I
in our
remember that.
timeline.
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
And I just saw this really bright young lady. I didn't realize at the time she was 25, but just a really bright young lady. And I said, hey, we would really love to have a younger voice, a younger perspective on our board.
Yeah.
And she went through that process of being interviewed by the board. And it was a case of, is this a good fit for you? And are you a good fit for us? That's the whole purpose, right?
Yeah.
Because you may go, yeah, this is not what I thought it was going to be. And then you can say no, which is fine. But she said yes. And then she headed off to Asia. And we're like, we don't want to lose you.
Right.
So we accommodated our Zoom meetings for her time zone difference in Asia. Well, then she comes and says, well, now I'm headed off to Europe. Okay, we're going to accommodate again.
Right.
But she's in San Diego now, and she does a lot of our SEO. She does a lot of our content about how to get the message out better on social media. Well, when we brought Ashlie on as our social media director, conversation between the two of them. In one thing that Ashlie did a few weeks ago, I guess about 10 days ago, Ashlie made one slight change. We had 6,000 views in 1 hour.
Holy smokes. That is
1 hour.
absolutely crazy.
Yeah.
She's amazing at what she does.
Yes,
For
We
sure.
we love Ashlie
An
being on our
asset
staff.
to say the least.
Exactly. So there's our timeline item. More
Okay,
came on board.
awesome. All right. Well, again, what's the website to sign up for Pathways?
So it's kicking-cancer.org. Click on support, go to Pathways, and the adult program.
All right. Perfect. All right.
Yes.
Thank you so much for
Yeah.
joining us.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. All right. We'll be back next week
As the movement continues.